My brothers and sisters, and my beloved confreres, on the solemnity of the Assumption of our Blessed Mother, as well as on the Independence Day, I wish each of you the glorious freedom that the Mother of God experienced as a sharing of her motherhood in our own personal life. May the Mother of God, who assumed into heaven, intercede for each one of us. The solemnity of the Assumption of Mother Mary is a doctrinal teachings of the Catholic Church. On the 1st of November 1950, Pope Pius XII, through his apostolic constitution, the most bountiful God, declared this doctrine as the dogma of the Church. Theologically, it means Mary's redemption involved a glorification of her total personality, her body, her mind, and her soul. And she is assumed into the presence of God in all her completeness, which we as human beings are still awaiting. She stands as a role model for all of us to imitate and to live up to, so that we ourselves in turn assume into heaven. I wish each of you the glorious experience of the Mother of God's Assumption as a personal sharing of our own very being. When we think about this particular celebration of the solemnity of the Mother of God as the one who is assumed into heaven, I would not dwell on the doctrinal dimension, but what helped her to involve in this redemptive mission of God and thus be assumed into heaven. There are three-dimensional aspects mentioned in the Gospel of the day. We are reading today from the Gospel of Luke. In these words, we are given a clear-cut picture of the three-dimensional aspect of Mary's life: her faith, her hope, and her charity. The Second Vatican Council, in its very famous document called the Lumen Gentium, Light of the Nations, in its article number 8, mentions Mary as the first and the best believer, a woman of faith, hope, and charity. These three virtues, which we call as the cardinal virtues, are very important for Christian formation and Christian lifestyle. And these three virtues are embedded in the person of Mary. Mary is a woman of faith. The Gospel of Luke chapter 1 verse 45 would say, Mary came to Elizabeth in the Judean hill countryside in order to assist her and help her as she was pregnant. And as soon as Elizabeth saw Mary, she exclaimed, "Blessed are you, because you believed that there would be a fulfillment of what was promised to you by the Lord. Blessed are you because you believed." Was it very easy for Mary to believe that she would be pregnant, that she would be mother of the Messiah? At a time where a person who is found pregnant without marital relationship can be stoned to death, Mary dares to say the fiat that I believe, let your will be done in my life. Mary accepted God's plans in total surrender and faith. That is her credibility. She never doubted. She believed what was promised to her by the Lord would be fulfilled. Can we tally our faith, our relationship with God in this manner? I remember a story being told about a young man. He was living in one of the remotest villages, but he had a good number of friends in the city. One day, his friends invited him to come to the city to have some time of relaxation and fun with them. He agreed. He took his bicycle, rode it, and reached the city. As he reached there, he parked the cycle in the city and he joined his friends to make merry and fun. All through the day, they enjoyed their life. They went to the beach, they went for film, they went to the restaurant, spent a wonderful time together. Late in the evening, as he had to return, he got a bus and came home. As he was lying on his bed, he suddenly remembered, "My God, I forgot my bicycle." The very next day, early morning, he went again to the city, and to his surprise, he found that the cycle was there where he had parked it. He was so grateful to God that he got his cycle back. As he was riding home, he saw a temple on the way. He stopped there, kept his cycle there, went into the temple, and thanked God for giving his cycle back. As he came out of the temple, the cycle was not there. Someone stole it away. Would he ever enter the temple to thank God? What is the depth of our faith today? Mary believed in the most unbelievable situation of her life and said, "Let your will be done." In the most difficult moments of our life, can we extend our hearts and hands to God and tell Him, "My God, let your will be done"? Mary was a woman of faith. Secondly, Mary was a woman of hope. In the Gospel of John, chapter 19, verses 25 to 27, we read a wonderful narration. There stand three women: Mary, the mother of Jesus, Mary of Magdala, and the other Mary. They three stand at the foot of the cross, watching the death of Jesus. I ask the question, where are the men, the so-called courageous ones? They are watching the scene from a distance. But the Mother of God stood at the foot of the cross, seeing the shivering body of her son dying. Was she not sad? Was she not sorrowful? The Gospel never mentions that Mary cried, but the tears were already inside of her as a burning charcoal. Mary stood at the foot of the cross, looking at the body of her son, crying out for help, still hoping that my God who called me to bear this son will take care of him. My brothers and sisters, it is said, mothers suffer the most when their children are in danger. I know this life experience of my own grandmother. She had 6 children. Unfortunately for her, she had to witness the death of 5 of her sons. 5 of them, she had to participate in their burial. And she said, each time when the dead body of my son was going into the grave, I was burying myself. A mother knows the pain of the death of her own body, the child into the grave. And this is the experience that a mother makes. In spite of the bitter experience of tears and struggles, seeing her son dying on the cross, Mary stands at the foot of the cross with a firm hope that my God will take charge of him. Mary was a woman of hope. Finally, we see Mary as a woman of charity. The Gospel of Luke, chapter 1, verse 39 says, Mary went up to the Judean hill countryside in order to assist her cousin Elizabeth, who was also pregnant. And what was Mary's status? She herself was pregnant. She was in need of someone else's help, but forgetting her need, she goes to assist her cousin Elizabeth. Charity means I myself am in need of someone else's help, but forgetting my own need, I go to extend my hands to the other. That is charity. Mary forgets her own self for the sake of the other. Mary was a woman of faith, hope, and charity. This freedom of living, this experience of her personal life and her sense of commitment, surrendering her will, her intellect, and her whole body for the service of God, Mary assumed into heaven to be in the presence of God and crowned as the Queen of heaven and earth. Let this solemnity of the celebration of the Assumption of our Blessed Mother give us the true freedom, my brothers and sisters, to follow God, to live Him in our personal lives as well. Let us equally, together with Mary, become people of faith, hope, and charity, and experience the inner freedom in giving ourselves for the glory of God. And let us await our own Assumption together with Mary, the Mother of God. Amen.